have the Edu plugin installed, we're ready to launch IntelliJ again. You can see I'm back to the Windows menu and I've selected the application under JetBrains and we're launching it for the second time. And in the second time should skip a lot of the configuration steps since it has the Edutools plugin installed. Okay, so on the next screen you're going to see is the splash that comes up, which is normal, and that will persist for a little while it's loading up files. And after that, it will ask us for the first time to see whether we were a learner and to go ahead and launch the Edutools. And yes, we want to do that. So we'll click on that. And that brings us to something where we can select a course to take. And for you, you might just have Kotlin koans, that's fine. In my case, I happen to have something else, which I might, through icon, let you have, if it's not publicly available, which will be Kotlin Basics, which I'm going to demo. But in your case, you could just as well do this with Kotlin koans. So here I'm selecting Kotlin Basics, which are some lessons that I wrote. But the Kotlin koans I found to be excellent as well. My lessons maybe go at a little slower pace and have some more fundamentals to them. So after you select it, and then we say, yes, we're going to go ahead and do this, then it will take us to the course. And the very first time, it sets up the IDE workspace, but it has a tip, kind of this little box in the center. And I've put my cursor over the X, the red X, to get rid of it. And I'm going to click that just to get rid of the tooltips. But I like these tooltips. They come up regularly, and it's a way to learn about the IDE, so I tend to leave that enabled. You can turn it off if you want. Okay, so here I am, and what I've done here is I've opened the first task underneath this lesson, and you'll see a file called something.kt, and that's the Kotlin file. And if you click on that KT underneath, which is open, which is the file that we want to open, that's going to take us to our first Kotlin program. And there is the first Kotlin program, but it has a couple of problems that we have to fix. One is a systems problem, and the other is the intended problem for just this tutorial. And so the first thing we have to do is this yellow bar that says that we don't have an SDK set up. And what it's complaining about is it doesn't know where the Java binaries are. And we have to teach that, and that's an unfortunate way of how it was set up in CS Lab. We really can't do anything about that for now. We'll fix it, but this fix will only be temporary for this session being logged on a particular machine. So to do that, I'm going to click on the blue where it says to set up the SDK, and it's going to take us through a sequence of steps. So the first thing after I click on it is it's going to come up and say, how do you want to configure this? And I'm going to click on that say, yes, I do want to configure where the sources are for the Java Development Kit. And when I click on that, it's a very unhelpful screen. It's not obvious what to do here. It's a strange thing. What you got to do is look for that green plus in the upper left corner of this pop-up window. And you have to click on that green plus. And that's the way to progress from here. And so after we've clicked on the green plus, it brings up different options for where to find the Java, and I'm going to go through the normal JVM method rather than using Android or JavaScript. So now that I have that, it's taking me to the various drives that are on this Windows, and I'm going to go for the C drive, which is where I know Java is installed. And so I'm going to highlight the C, and I'm going to open the C by clicking on the greater than sign to the left of it. And now you can see that I can see what's on the C disk. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for program files. It's kind of halfway down there. It says program files. And what I'm going to do is click on the program files and open that. Now that I've opened the program files, what you should see under program files, you'll have to scroll down. So hit the right scroll bar to scroll down until you find Java. And then I'm going to open Java, and we're going to see underneath Java is three things, and two of them say JDK, and I don't really care which JDK it presents to me. I think either one of them is going to work for our purposes. And so I'm going to highlight one of them. I think I'll pick the middle one for the JDK. So now I've highlighted it, and then I'm going to say OK to this. I think that's acceptable. Okay, now it shows that it recognized this JDK. It shows a whole bunch of things, and it knows what that this is Java, and it recognized it, so everything looks okay. And I'm going to agree to this and say OK. And after this, it takes me back to the same screen, and it still has the problem. It complains about no JDK, which is strange. And so I clicked on it again. I'm skipping a step, but I had to click on it again. And I see this box coming up just to say, OK, I agree to what I've done before as being the settings. And so I'll click on this OK, looks like redundantly the second time. And now, yes, it's done. And so the only remaining task I have is to change what's in the blue area, that little tiny blue box that says to do in it. And I have to replace that by some legal Kotlin syntax. And for this lesson, it's easy. It's just the string hello world. And so I'm going to replace that blue box by hello world, just type into it hello world. And it's green, and that means there's no problem with this. The syntax is fine, but we still have to check whether when it runs, this is the adequate solution. So over to the right is a little checkbox underneath the task description. And when I click on that box, it's actually compiling it now and running it and comparing its output with the expected output to see whether this is a valid solution. And if all goes well, you'll see the solution. If it doesn't, if you have a wrong solution, you'll see some error message. That's complex to talk about. So I'll just hope that it's correct here. And it is correct, and everything looks fine, and you'll see more green on the screen. There's a little green on the lower right showing more tasks have been completed. There's green on the upper left where the task now is colored in green, showing that I've finished that task. And so I've completed the first task of the first lesson.